There.
Okay, Mr. Mayor Council, we are live on YouTube.
Okay, I will call this regular council meeting of April 27th to order. Welcome everybody and those viewers that are waiting patiently to see how this works. So first we'll be adopting the agenda. So I'd like to get a motion for today's agenda. Thank you, Councillor Lemko. Is there any other changes? Everybody's got what Sandra added today, right? Okay. Seeing no hands in the air, all those in favor of adopting agenda as it is? Thank you. Now we're looking. Councillor Waters, would you like to make a motion to adopt the minutes of our last meeting? I thought you did. Exactly. Is there any errors or omission within those minutes? Seeing none, no hands waving. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. First up, we have some correspondence from our MP, Shannon Stubbs' office. Who's doing this one? Cliff?
Do you want me to read it all through?
Yeah, I don't have the, no, has everybody had it? Basically, everybody's read the letter and what her bill represents, creating a tax break through flow through shares to help out some businesses, some smaller and middle-sized oil companies in Alberta. Or do you think we should read the whole thing right now? Go ahead then, let's read it.
Okay. Mayor and Council, on February 25, 2020, I introduced my private member's bill C-221, the Environmental Restoration Incentive Act. It will be considered in the House of Commons in coming weeks. Canadian oil and gas producers are world leaders in environmental remediation and reclamation, but a combination of economic, policy, legislative, and regulatory factors has led to a historic collapse in investment, businesses, and jobs in Canada's energy sector. One consequence is that record bankruptcies have caused the number of orphan wells to increase by over 300% since 2015. This is an urgent economic and environmental challenge in rural municipalities, in particular for municipal governments, for landowners on Crown land, and for Indigenous communities. Small and medium-sized oil and gas producers are the backbone of the sector and want to fulfill their remediation and reclamation obligations, but have been the hardest hit. The Supreme Court's 2019 Redwater decision makes it more difficult for financially vulnerable and at-risk producers to raise capital because lenders and investors know returns may be delayed or never recouped. The Environmental Restoration Incentive Act will help struggling small and medium oil and gas producers, specifically to decommission old and inactive wells. Rural municipalities face significant economic impacts with over $173 million in unpaid property taxes. While this bill will not immediately recover all the taxes owing to municipalities, the benefits of Bill C-221 to municipalities are twofold. First, this bill will help producers to continue operating and paying taxes. Secondly, this bill will help producers permanently decommission wells they are no longer use, reducing future environmental liabilities in your community. The current orphan well system is overwhelmed and risks costing taxpayers 100% of associated costs for well closure, remediation, and reclamation, which is currently estimated between 30 billion and 70 billion overall. Bill C-221 enables small producers to raise money from investors exclusively for decommissioning oil and gas wells. It will incentivize and ensure private sector proponents can fulfill environmental responsibilities at the lowest public cost. This will be accomplished using something called flow-through shares, which Bill C-221 requires the government to consider and report on. Flow-through shares allow a company to attach a tax credit to a specific stock. In this way, the benefit of the tax credit flows through to the purchaser of the stock, which is typically an investment fund. The tax credit creates the nonprofit margin on a stock that is not growing in value, creating an incentive for external investors to invest in companies with low growth potential to raise money from the private sector. Bill C-221 creates the specific tax credit for well decommissioning costs that will be attached to flow-through shares, which will be of immediate benefit. Bill C-221 proposes the flow-through share ability as a short-term measure, ending by 2026, to encourage immediate action and job creation and to deal with the pressing crisis of suspended and inactive wells. This bill applies only to small and medium producers responsible for about 1/4 of the total Canadian oil production, and which have on average 1 well for every 10 wells of large and multinational companies that don't qualify for the tax credit. A real difference can be made right away with a tax credit that can be only used by the year a well is decommissioned and will only be for small and medium producers that need it the most. It will help stewardship the environment, create jobs for oil and gas workers right away, and protect taxpayers. My bill is not a perfect remedy to this complex challenge, which requires cooperation and multi-pronged action from both federal and provincial governments. Because of limits on the scope and power of the private member bills, Bill C-221 cannot single-handedly create the tax credit with flow-through shares enacted immediately, but I am working in collaboration with all members of Parliament of all parties and independents to secure support and to urge timely implementation of flow-through shares for this credit. While I'm an aggressive advocate for Lakeland and for Alberta, I have a track record of working with other parties on previous initiatives. What matters most to me is doing the right thing and the advancement of meaningful initiatives, not politics. In the previous term, I accepted significant amendments from another party to my motion 167 on rural crime, and it ultimately received unanimous support in the House of Commons from all parties. Similarly, the current situation with orphan wells is escalating. With many different impacts, I believe my private member's bill are morally, politically, and philosophically obligated to find common ground to address this challenge. In summary, my bill will incentivize and ensure private sector proponents can fulfill environmental responsibilities at the lowest public cost. Please discuss Bill C-221 with your colleagues and with your constituents. You may consider passing a resolution in support of Bill C-221, the Environmental Restoration Incentive Act, or contact me with your individual and or collective support. Shannon Stubbs, MP, House of Commons, Ottawa, Ontario.
Okay, I'll take a motion here to receive and file that letter first off. Councilor Rudy, thank you. Any discussion or any thoughts regarding Bill C-221? Well, I personally think that anything that would help the situation locally here with some small and medium-sized oil companies, and hopefully the provincial and federal governments will be on board with these flow-through shares. I know that they've supported flow-through with their other industries to help industries get back on track. And Councillor Warwa, what can you tell us about when does she expect to bring this bill to the House?
Hi, so right now the time frame is a little bit unknown. Originally, prior to the House rising, she looked that it would be coming back between the end of May and beginning of June, because what happens now that's been presented, it has to come back for a second reading before going further. Right now, with Parliament not being back full and everything changing a bit, we're a little unsure of exactly what the time frame will be. There has been some announcements both provincially and federally, and they can work, they can still work alongside this motion at this time.
So what do you think the MP would need here? A letter of support or a resolution from the town supporting this? What are your thoughts? Go ahead.
So I know she's received both, so it's totally up to council. Some councils have just written letters of support that have said something similar to the just saying that they understand that it can be an issue, especially for their most neighboring partners, which is what we face with Minburn County being one of our partners on many issues, and obviously things that impact them financially impact us. Other ones have just passed it as a simple resolution to support the motion. So it's totally up to each council.
Hey, Councillor Barry.
I think that we could certainly support it. I think that a motion would be in order if we wanted to do that. I would certainly make a motion that we support it. And I would also say that if we send a letter to her, it would be, she is our member of Parliament. I think that it's appropriate for us to support.
Okay, thank you. Is everybody good with that? Okay, so Councillor Barry's made a motion that we support this bill C-221 with a letter of support from the town. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Can I ask one question, Councillor Warwa? Why is the bill only for wells that are decommissioned in that year? Why is it stated that way?
So what they were looking at was just, oh, sorry, there, off now. What they were looking at was just the ability to put a time frame on them. So it's not specifically that they have to be decommissioned in that year, but what it was looking at was more so towards inactive wells to keep them from going into the orphan well process. So that's what it is in regards to. It's an ability to stop them from becoming part of the already over subscribed orphan well fund. And they did do a time period on it because they wanted it to have an end date. So it's not a bailout in any way. It's just some way to incite the industry itself to be able to be paying for remediation versus it ending up being full tax dollars.
Thank you for the clarification. It makes sense. They just don't end up in the orphan well. Excellent. Okay. Go ahead, Cliff.
Just a point of order, you have a motion on the floor from Councillor Rudick.
Oh, for the receive and file?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go ahead on the receive and file. First of all those in favor? There we go. So, sorry about that. A lot going on here with all these different screens. Okay, thank you very much. So next up, we are going to have the monthly cash statement. Mr. Paul Casey. Oh, sorry, Councillor Barry.
I believe we also have to take a vote on the motion I made.
We didn't vote on that motion?
No, we voted on the first one and now we need to vote on the second one as well. We got a little ahead of ourselves on discussing both things at the same time.
Okay. All those in favor of the Councillor Barry's motion to have a letter of support? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I thought I jumped way ahead and thought we already did that one. Sorry. Okay, so next up is our monthly cash statement with Mr. Casey.
Okay, this is the monthly cash statement for the month ended March 31st, 2020. We began the month with $7,864,454. We had a net draw of cash of $1,148,061 and ended the month with $6,716,393 between our operating account and our investments. Major expenditures during the month of March were approximately $204,000 for our quarterly debenture payments, and $527,000 for our education requisition for the first quarter. In addition to that, we expended funds under our budget for the mower that was in the budget for $59,000 and for a new half-ton truck for $40,600. Major cash receipts were ATCO franchise fees between electric and gas of $133,386. And just to give you an idea on the tax pre-authorized payment plan for March, we received $253,296 from 647 taxpayers
Excellent.
that are on the plan.
Thank you. Take a motion for the monthly cash statement to approve it. Councillor Broadjack, any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Mr. Phil Rowe, you are up next.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a request for a council decision. Topic is the Heather Curling Club request for rental cancellation. The proposal is to cancel the Heather Curling Club multiplex rental charge for the month of March 2020. It's proposed by Community Services. The background, the Heather Curling Club pays $9,000 a month rent for the use of the Vegreville multiplex building as per their contract. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the town of Vegreville was forced to close all public recreation facilities on March 16, 2020. The social center was always closed, also closed to events, preventing the Heather Curling Club from holding their major fundraiser in March 2020. This fundraiser is used to offset the rental payments for the club. The financial implications to this decision are a loss of $9,000 in rental revenue for the multiplex building. Communication strategy, the town of Vegreville would communicate to the Heather Curling Club in writing, notifying them of the decision for March 2020 cancellation. A recommendation is that town council approve the cancellation of the March 2020 rental fee for the Heather Curling Club in the amount of $9,000.
Okay, thank you. Anybody would like to make a motion regarding the cancellation of that payment? Councillor Waters? Thank you. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Warwell, you're first.
I just wanted to say on this one that, I think it's one of those things where it's kind of taken out of their hands. So, it's not, it wasn't anything that they were able to control. So I think that we have to look at it, and there's no way that some of these service clubs, because they're not able to access any other funds. So I think we'll just have to think about that.
Okay, Councillor Rudick.
I was just going to mention that if this could be not only permitted, of course, in these extraordinary circumstances, but make sure that we continue to tally the costs, direct and indirect, that COVID-19 is having on our municipality. FCM continues to gather data, and of course, our extremely capable administrative staff doesn't have as many as larger cities, but we want to make sure that we capture those costs together so that when we're advocating, we've got real-time data. So just want to make sure that that gets shuffled into whatever column it needs to continue the rising costs that this is causing for the municipality.
That's a very good comment. We should be able to, when this is all over, to say this is what it really costs the municipality, so, and our community. So, seeing no other comments, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Mr. Dale Lefebvre.
Thank you, Your Worship. The topic for today's RCD is a settlement of K&K Recycling Services Statement of Claim. The proposal to settle the claim, settlement of claim between K&K Recycling Services and the town of Vegreville. The background: in the spring of 2017, following instruction by council, the Infrastructure Planning and Development Department canceled the agreement between the town and K&K Recycling Services for the provision of metal recycling services at the Vegreville Sanitary Landfill. The town received correspondence dated August 24th, 2017 from K&K Recycling Services disputing the termination of the contract. The town responded in a letter dated September 6th, 2017, confirming the town's decision. On April 3rd, 2018, the town received notification from the legal counsel representing K&K Recycling Services that the town is being sued. On March 11th, 2020, our legal counsel received a settlement offer from K&K's counsel. This item was discussed with Town Council in the closed session at the Legislative Committee meeting on April 7th, 2020. Financial implications. In accordance with policy FIN 6007, council approval is required for this unbudgeted expense. A transfer of $20,000 from the general operating reserve to the operating fund would be required. Communication strategy. The town of Vegreville legal counsel will be notified of council's decision and request to proceed with obtaining the necessary releases for the town of Vegreville, including all members of town council and senior management team. The recommendation is being made. The town council offer a settlement of $20,000 and advise legal counsel to proceed with obtaining the necessary releases for the town of Vegreville, including all members of council and senior management team, and further that town council approve the transfer from the general operating reserve to the operating fund in the amount of $20,000.
Thank you. Looking for a motion. Councillor Barry. Thank you. Any comments? Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Yes, I think that although it looks like an expenditure, it was somewhat anticipated. And I believe that the bright side of the picture is the new contract actually derives revenue for us, where the old contract did not. So I think in the long run, we will be better off for having made this decision.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just give you a little history. The previous council, there was a local interest that said that they would like to start taking our metal recycling in, and there was an offer of some payment with the with K&K. There was no money being created from the contract we were at with them. Since then, I think that local guy maybe took one load, but he was no longer in business. And now we've arranged a different payment schedule with somebody else that's local on our, and it's exceeded the $20,000 that we're paying to get out of this contract with K&K. So all in all, moving forward, I think that it's the best result that could have happened. It took a little bit of time, and I want to thank Dale and his department and admin here for sticking to the plan and getting us out of that situation we're in. So anybody else have any comments? Councillor Rudick.
Apologies, my house alarm went off while I was on the call. So you may have already clarified. I'm just curious, those of us that were on council, if we feel like the first paragraph in the background explanation is an accurate capture or the best one that can be shared.
You are not liking the first paragraph?
I just,
should it be a majority of that council decided that? Is that?
well, if there's a
was-
majority, I guess it's a council decision. I'm not certain that everybody was a party to the original decision that was made. So that might be semantics, but I guess it's a reminder to us all that as elected officials, when we're making decisions with public dollars, that our decisions will be borne by future taxpayers as well as the current ones. So
I totally respect what you're saying, and this was one of the best outcomes that could have come from a poor decision at the time.
thank you.
Anybody else have a comment? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Next up, Paul Casey and tax sale notice.
Yeah, this is a request for council decision to set the date for the 2020 tax recovery sale. The background is that properties that are in tax arrears for more than 2 years are placed on tax notification through Land Title's office. If the properties on tax notification remain in arrears at March 31st in the year following the notification, the municipality must offer these lands for sale by public auction before March 31st in the year following. This year, the town has 7 properties eligible for tax sale, and authorization is requested that administration be allowed to proceed with the 2020 tax sale on Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 10 a.m. in council chambers. And the recommendation is that the 2020 tax sale be held Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 10 a.m. Sale by public auction, and the terms of the sale to be cash.
Okay, need a motion to support this. Councilor Broadjack, thank you very much. Any discussion? Councilor Broadjack, you're first.
I just want to say that with the COVID, that we may have to change that following. We don't know what will happen September 8th, so we may have to make adjustments or modifications to that tax sale,
Okay,
to the
Councilor
venue.
Warwa. Yep, Councilor Warwa.
This question is just for Mr. Casey. I'm just wondering if we were, my question was somewhat similar to Councilor Brodziak's. If we were in a position of needing to change, are these types of tax sales something that could be done online, like as a virtual, or would it need to be a traditional type of sale?
I don't know the answer to that question right now. I would have to do some investigation before then, for sure.
Go ahead, Cliff.
We can certainly look into alternative methods. I'm wondering if if it could be through sealed bid only. Typically, we don't normally have anyone participate in the tax sale, and it's been a number of years since we've actually had an offer put in on one of these properties. So, but we also work with the owners to try and recover as much of the taxes as we can.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Rudick.
I haven't looked through the entire package, but there was an AUMA newsletter that was sent out that gives access to all municipalities to Box of Docs. And it has all the legislative possibilities that we might have as small municipalities. And I wonder if that might not be in there in terms of a change in date or a change in process, because of course this is all extraordinary times, which might be a quick reference point for our administrative staff to be able to take a look at. I was just looking for it. I can't find it quickly, but if anybody else has taken a look at, there's a lot of great legislative supports in there, and it basically has how to write resolutions on every single topic that's facing small municipalities, and this is one of them, I'm guessing. And if it isn't, then that would definitely be something that we need to push up the chain to our Minister of Municipal Affairs to ensure that we, like all other 350 municipalities, have access to this information in a timely fashion.
Go ahead, Mr. Casey.
So Councilor Rudick, we are already a subscribing member to Box of Docs, so we would have access to that information. We just have to go look for it.
So I think we'll go ahead and we'll vote on this motion to set the date of September 8th. And we'll just play it by ear and how this will unroll and how we're going to accept these bids. So all those in favor? Did you vote, Councilor Warwa? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Casey, you have one more here.
Yeah, the topic is to adjust the 2020 operating budget for changes in property taxes. And the proposal is to adjust the 2020 operating budget passed on December 17, 2019 to remove the 1% increase in property taxes. And the background is, with many community members and businesses impacted by COVID-19, the town of Vegreville has decided to remove the 1% increase in property taxes as passed in the 2020 operating budget on December 17, 2019. The reduction in property taxes will be offset by a transfer from the general operating reserve, so there will be no financial impact on the 2020 operating budget. Property tax revenues, the financial implications is the property tax revenue 2020 operating budget will be reduced by $93,108 and will be offset by a transfer from the general operating reserve in the amount of $93,108. The total revenue from taxation, other sources of revenue and transfers will remain unchanged in the 2020 budget. The communication is that the town will make this information publicly available by posting this information on its website and social media sites. And the recommendation is that town council approve the amendment to the 2020 operating budget through reduction of the property tax revenue in the 2020 budget by $93,108, offset by a transfer from the general operating reserve of $93,108.
Thank you. Looking for a motion. Counselor Lemko. Any discussion? Counselor Barry.
We don't have a lot of tools available to us that can actually try and help our citizens. So reducing the overall tax by 1% is about the most we can do on the tax side of it. So I think that I'm hoping that it will help some.
Yeah, and I know how hard we all worked to put that budget together and the amount of cuts and savings that we were looking for. So we'll just have to reach in the reserve a little bit here just to help not pass that on to the everyday taxpayer. Councilor Rudick.
Again, I just want to ensure that our decisions are always difficult ones when we're talking about public money and how to best forecast the impact to the community, both today and long range. So I would want to make sure that we continue to accumulate those costs that are specifically and directly related to COVID, because this is not only through the prudent budgetary decisions of previous councils and our council, but also in the future that we need to be able to capture those to be able to advocate to higher orders, or sorry, not other orders of government, not higher orders of government, the province and the federal government as well.
Thank you. Councilor Warwa.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I know it was already touched upon that we spent a lot of time during the budget process bringing our budget in line, recognizing the fact that we were being asked to take on a lot provincially. There's a lot of less funding that was already coming our way. And, you know, so there wasn't a lot, we had trimmed so much already, even with that small amount of increase that we were seeing. And I just think it's important for us to, you know, acknowledge and talk to people about the fact that there's going to be the reality of a lot of hard future budgets as well. There already was going to be some difficult ones. And certainly now with COVID, we're not going to be facing an easy situation. So, you know, budgeting is going to be a very hard and ongoing process, I think, for a few years to come, for sure.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Next up, Mr. Rowe, are you doing this one?
Yes, Your Worship. This is a memorandum from VTAB, that's the Vegreville Tourism Advisory Board, and the subject is board member appointment and the board member appointment move. Effective January 20th, 2020, VTAB Economic Development Representative member Franco Mattina resigned from the board due to a change in his employment locally. At the April 20th, 2020 meeting, Vegreville Tourism Advisory Board meeting, Donna Williams' application to become a member of the board was discussed. Currently having no vacancies for a at-large member, the board would like to move Len Bullock's appointment to Economic Development Representative. The recommendation is that Town Council approve that the Vegreville Tourism Advisory Board appoint Donna Williams as a member at-large representative to the Vegreville Tourism Advisory Board with the term to expire April 2022. This appointment would be in accordance to bylaw 10-2019, section 4.3, subsection G. And furthermore, is recommended that Town Council move Len Bullock's appointment from a member at large representative to economic development representative with a term to expire March 2021. This appointment will be in accordance with to bylaw 10-2019, section 4.3C.
Okay. Looking for a motion for these appointments. Councillor Waters. You moved. Everybody moved. Caleb left, and then I had to find everybody again here. So, any discussion on these new appointments? Councillor Warwa.
Sorry, I feel like I've been taking up a lot of airspace today. Just as board chair, I wanted to say that Obviously, Mr. Bullock is able to fit into more than one category, and we are really happy at the thought of him being able to change over but still remain with the board. He brings in regards to tourism vital information. He's directly involved, of course, with the Pesica Park markets and also through Go East. And I think that he also brings, a very important part to that advisory board, as well as our new proposed appointment has sat in on her own time as an observer, and she seems very eager, and I think will be a great addition. Thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. So next up, we have a bylaw number 072020. Cliff, you're doing that one?
That would be me, Your Worship.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Casey.
This is bylaw 072020. This bylaw 072020 of the town of Vegreville in the province of Alberta to authorize the rates of taxation and tax penalties to be levied against assessable property within the town of Vegreville for the 2020 taxation year. Whereas the town of Vegreville has prepared and adopted detailed estimates of the municipal revenues and expenditures as required at the council meeting held on December 16, 2019, and further amended on April 27, 2020. And whereas the estimated municipal expenditures and transfers set out in the budget for the town of Vegreville for 2020 total $20,306,885. And whereas the estimated municipal revenues and transfers from all sources other than taxation is estimated at $10,996,071, and the balance of $9,310,814 is to be raised by general municipal taxation. And whereas the requisitions are for provincial education, a net requisition of $2,102,594, the MDF Minburn Foundation, $105,831, and the provincial assessor, $1,937. And whereas the council of the town of Vegreville is required each year to levy on the assessed value of all property, tax rates sufficient to meet the estimated expenditures and the requisitions, and whereas the council is authorized to classify assessed property and to establish different rates of taxation in respect to each class of property, subject to the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M26, known as the Municipal Government Act, and whereas the assessed value of all property in the town of Vegreville is shown on the assessment roll for the municipal purposes, $733,438,080. And whereas the assessed value of all property in the town of Vegreville is shown on the assessment roll for the Alberta School Foundation Fund purposes is $619,555,981. And whereas the assessed value of all property in the town of Vegreville is shown on the assessment roll for Elk Island Catholic Separate Regional Division number 41 is $113,882 and $113,882,099 for a grand total assessment of $733,438,080. Now, therefore, under the authority of the Municipal Government Act, the Council of the Town of Vegreville in the province of Alberta enacts as follows. Number one, this bylaw may be cited as the 2020 property tax and tax penalty bylaw. Number two, the chief administrative officer is hereby authorized to levy the following rates of taxation on the assessed value of all property as shown on the assessment roll. For municipal taxes, residential and farmland, a tax rate of 7.8538. For non-residential small business, a tax rate of 15.7077. For other non-residential, including machinery and equipment and designated industrial properties, a tax rate of 18.4621. For municipal policing services, for residential and farmland, a tax rate of 1.1275. For non-residential small businesses, a tax rate of 2.2551. For non-residential other machinery and equipment and designated industrial properties, a tax rate of 2.6505. For the Alberta School Foundation Fund, tax rate for residential and farmland of 2.7649, and for non-residential small business and other non-residential, a tax rate of 3.8323, And for Elk Island Catholic Separate School, the same tax rates as for the Alberta School Foundation Fund. For the MD Minburn Foundation, a tax rate of 0.1542. And for the provincial assessor, for designated industrial properties, a tax rate of 0.0754. And where's the rest of this thing? So the summary tax rates are, including education tax rates, for residential taxes, our residential tax rate is 11.9004, non-residential small business tax rate of 21.9493, non-residential other tax rate of 25.0991, designated industrial property tax rate of 25.1745, machinery and equipment tax rate of 21.2668, and grants in place of taxes a tax rate of 21.1126. Number 3.1, in this section, the education portion means the amount of the levy for the Alberta School Foundation Fund and the Elk Island Catholic Separate Regional Division number 41. Number 2, except as provided in subsection 3, taxes for the current year are due and payable no later than June 30th, 2020. And number 3, the education portion of non-residential taxes are due and payable no later than September 30th, 2020. Number 4, the following penalties be set. A, 0% on all current taxes remaining unpaid after June 30th, 2020. B, 10% penalty on all current taxes remaining unpaid after September 30th, 2020. And C, 15% penalty on all taxes remaining unpaid after December 31st, 2020. Number 5, this bylaw shall take effect on the date of the third and final reading. And number 6, this bylaw 12-2019 is hereby repealed. And this is read for the first time the 27th day of April, 2020.
Okay, I'll take a motion for the first reading of this new tax bylaw. Councillor Barry. Any discussion? Councillor Brajak.
In addition to this tax bylaw, council had discussed doing a promotion, like a real blitz, of the town's tax incentive payment plan, which is a monthly payment plan. So I would really encourage, I know that the administration will be doing their best to try and encourage people to sign up for that program. There will be no penalties if you pay it up to date. And then if you want to pay the 6 months owing as of June 30th, and then a monthly payment plan after that, it'll certainly be easier for a lot of residential or a lot of the taxpayers of our community.
That's correct, Councillor Brajak. That's already in part of our tax bylaw already. And we will be doing a public presentation, and we're trying to get more people that may have some problems in paying it all on June 30th to get them on that payment program. So we will be doing going out in with their utility bills, and we're going to be doing some radio advertising. The key to this is that people need to sign up and get registered for that. And the other part of this new bylaw is that there is thoughts that we are not going to penalize the people who cannot afford to pay on June 30th right off the bat. That they're going to have until the end of September with no penalty to come up with the money or making whatever effort they can. And by no means is this meant for every member of our community. I mean, it's not, if you have the means to pay this new bylaw, please go ahead and pay. I mean, we all need to do our part within our community to pull our own weight. We're writing this the way we did this year to help support those people who are in a situation right now. So that's what this this new bylaw is trying to achieve with their community, trying to help out those who need the help. So if you, again, if you have the need, the means to pay, please pay on time. Okay, all those in favor of the first reading? Carried. I'd like to get a motion for a second reading. Councillor Waters. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Take a motion for a unanimous consent. Counselor Brodziak. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. And now, third and final reading, I need a motion. Counselor Warwa, thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. I just want to let everybody know that's watching and members of our community, it may not be the most perfect way to address this. We looked at many other ways. We listened to other municipalities. We just feel with what the payment plan we already have, that we are going to promote that as the best we can within the community. And we're trying to help out a certain percentage of the community that maybe just need that little bit of help right now. So again, I want to thank you all for your work and your input on this. And hopefully it's enough to get us over that hump. So up next, we have council reports. Since everybody moved around on my screen, I'm going to start at the top. So I don't know where everybody else is, but Councillor Warwa, you're on the top of mine. So.
All right, so like I'm sure everybody else is, we've all been learning the world of Zoom. April 20th, we had the Vegreville tourism meeting via Zoom. There will be quite a bit of changes from what I would have reported to council at our last legislative meeting. As when we met last, we still were talking a lot about the top 20 and 20 events, and most of them had just been postponed without actual cancellation. As I'm sure everyone is aware, the province has since made announcements that will make it so that these activities won't be going forward for the summer. So it's going to change a lot of what our next meeting is going to look like. But we definitely were going through those as well. One of the topics that we had was our mural plans. Of course, we had discussed that now would not be the time. Originally, there was going to be a campaign for some sponsorship of squares that you could sponsor on our mural. This would be a mural that would extend on our building to kind of extend the smaller version that has the egg around it and just make that whole wall into a mural. Now, we are still looking at that. That's going to be up for discussion again. It may be something that we can still go ahead with and bring some joy and some light forward, but we'll have to bring some more information for you guys on that one. And then some of the other ones right now, we had talked about the variations of an art walk, that there may still be some ability to either do some virtual work through an art walk or still have some of the businesses still possibly display. So that's one of the things that we will be still looking at and moving forward. But a number of our other events that we had listed at this time right now are going to not be happening. I believe our next meeting, we will end up now discussing some of the items that were on the top 20 and 20 and see if there's a way that's cost effective that could still showcase some of them. There are certain things that you could do that could be virtual tours and some possibility to still make that go. So that's one of the things that we were going towards at that last meeting. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes for us at the next meeting and probably more to announce because a lot changed from the time of this meeting till today. On April 21st, we also had an FCS meeting via Zoom. And with this one here, just a couple of things we wanted to highlight is that they've still been very, very busy. A big shout out to everybody at the FCSS. The phones have still been very busy. They did still find ways to adjust the tax program that was going on, and that still has happened. Of course, Meals on Wheels and other programs are still happening. One thing that we had a big discussion on there was some survey results that originally there was a talk about what would the community need with COVID, and the original results that had talked about things like the delivery of groceries, the delivery of pharmaceutical. And now in response to taking to see the survey results, to seeing what kind of calls have come in, there's been a bit of a difference between what the original survey is. So that sort of speaks miles towards, I guess I'd like to say kudos to some of our businesses and how they've stepped up and they've actually filled in one of the gaps that people were thinking would be a problem originally. We do have delivery service available for some of our medications, and of course, some of our grocery stores and other businesses are doing, of course, delivery, and some of them always had it as well. And there are a large number of people that didn't know, for example, that our local co-op always did provide some delivery service. So, you know, it's a good opportunity to showcase that, but I think we should do a shout out to our businesses who've had to adapt and who've also tried to step up for people on the vulnerable sector. One of the biggest areas though, and I think we're going to see this more and more, some of the calls that they're getting is more in supports of mental health issues and what supports are going to be able to come forward from there. Applications were made by our FCSS. They did have all their applications in for some of the provincial funding that's set forward to help. They had theirs in prior to the cutoff, but the program was so oversubscribed that it was closed at the time. So they did a good job in getting their information in. So like most things, there's going to be a lot of evolving, but that's kind of what's happening. And I think this department is one of ours through the town that obviously hasn't slowed down, and I don't think will slow down anytime too much in the future. I also had on April 21st legislative meeting, April 23rd, I met the rest of council and we did a very, what I thought was a heartfelt touch out to Nova Scotia with very much keeping in mind social distancing at the Pesinka and tonight's council meeting. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lemko.
Good evening, Your Worship. I too sat in on both meetings that Councillor Waraba talked about, the Tourism Advisory Board. And I just want to add to what she said is that a lot of the tourism cities and the towns that have tourism boards are using the social media platform websites to promote and support the businesses in the communities. An example of that would be Tourism Medicine Hat has a social distancing bingo. And this is to engage the local community and to support businesses. Tourism Canmore Can Ask has rallied the hospitality industry and community to help struggling workers. Tourism Calgary launched the Love YYC from home to continue to foster community pride for the city and support Calgary partners amplifying their business offerings. Just an example of what tourism is doing in light of all the COVID, that maybe people can't come to your community, but we want to support the local businesses with initiatives through tourism, something we can do as well. So I did attend the Go East Tourism Board meeting, and we talked about the release of the Go East of Edmonton tourist guide and what that looked like. As we talked all about those initiatives of getting that out with some initiatives around it, only to have the announcement that all after the board meeting that all summer events have been canceled. Some of the challenges that tourism's facing is the lack of promotion and support for rural tourism from Travel Alberta. They're focused on the cities and the mountains, and rural tourism has no initiative in the upcoming strategic plan coming out of the tourism. We need to look at tourism is small business and retail. Tourism is linked to oil and gas, and you know, the Alberta oil and gas economy is linked to tourism. I mean, oil and gas workers use campgrounds, restaurants, shops as a support industry to them. And every region, every town is recording losses of business already and showing the negative economic impact. Surveys from local and community futures estimate 30% of businesses losses and untold job losses. If we can't open businesses by the end of May, this number is expected to even be higher. Even if businesses survive, there's a higher cost to operate. Numerous businesses are right now without their supplies that they haven't been able to get, and the cost of those supplies and getting them to them are higher, 10% in costs. Staying alive and offering free delivering is cutting also into the profit margins, and these are becoming so low that there's no profit or even minimum cash flow. So we have to do anything we can to support these businesses through tourism initiatives. If that's nothing as is something simple as social distancing bingo, maybe that's something that supports local. I attended the FCSS meeting, and some of the items in there that was discussed about what's actually FCSS is hearing is people are calling in to support. The number one reason they're calling for support is the income tax program. It's the number one concern by far. People want to know how they can access the program. What is the new process to use over the phone? People are wondering how to apply for climate incentives, which is something as a family of 4 in Alberta could receive up to $888. And it depends on your personal situation. There's also access for information for financial assistance. What's that? And our good people at FCSS are doing what they can to support that. I want to talk a little bit about the mental health component that people are looking for and some of the items there. I did sit in on the Alberta Council's mental health in our communities webinar held on Friday. It's interesting how the discussion of some of the panelists, the Kids Helpline, an example of that. They have they're operating 24/7. They have 1,000 active volunteers who support the calls coming in. And since the COVID, and they're using the March 12th date, they've seen an increase of 350% of call-ins. Alberta alone has seen an increase of 52% demand for that service. Alberta is the highest province in Canada for demand for that service. People are calling in with concerns of abuse, substance abuse, anxiety, body image, isolation. 84% of the people who have called in felt more hopeful after the call. So that's a free for those people who need to call in. There's also mental health co-pilots, and that's an Edmonton-based organization that helps Edmonton, but they've seen the need so much in Alberta, the need so that they've expanded it at no cost to other residents within Alberta. Same with Beacon Modern Mind Health used to be a relatively inexpensive or less expensive, affordable, accessible, and effective online where they hook you up with a therapist, and the costs were 80% less than if you went into a clinic. The need was so big across Canada that it's now free to Canadians. Launched April 6th. Government Alberta initiatives. I did share the information with Julie, and you'll see she'll follow up, and it'll be something added to the list of items that mental health for our communities. And that, sir, is my report.
Thank you very much. The tourism updates, it was funny on the weekend, I was listening to other municipalities like Sylvan Lake, stay away, do not come to our town. Drumheller, they put up barricades, do not visit us, we don't want any tourism. So it's, I can see how the tourism department would be maybe changing its focus here the next little while to help out some businesses. Good job, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Warwa.
Yeah, I just want to note on that, just because Councillor Lemko had touched on it. You're right, they'll be making some adjustment, but it was shocking to me how the emphasis was on the importance of the tourism board as another avenue that people watch in different ways, not only from within your community, but the people from outside. So I think it's going to be interesting. There'll be, I think, maybe even some additional unique challenges placed upon that board, and of course our employees from there, just because many people are using their tourism board as a primary way to still promote the community and the businesses.
Thank you. Councillor Berry, what have you been up to?
Well, most of my meetings and committees, Your Worship, are on hold, canceled, and the summer will probably be the same way. Vermilion River Watershed, we did have a Zoom meeting there and discussed where we're at. And I was we will be having some documents come out in a short while. I think the public would be interested in. So I'll just say that for that, if they go to vrwa.ca, they'll find a very excellent website that'll give a good background on some of the things that we've been doing in the last few years. I was at the Ledge meeting on the 21st. I was also at the photo that we were giving condolences to Nova Scotia for their great loss. Our regular council meeting tonight. And other than that, in terms of tourism, I'm putting some effort into plans and et cetera that I hope can take place towards fall. I'm certainly hoping that if we plan now, that maybe there'll be tourism opportunities that people will want to be coming into the rural areas like Vegreville when some of this unfortunate close down can subside and we can really promote tourism. I don't want to lose out on not promoting our town. I recognize we don't really want to encourage a lot of people at this time, but I don't think we want to lock up the town and put up barricades. I think we want to still keep advertising that we're open, we're friendly, and when travel is permitted, by all means, make this your first destination. And the other thing that's keeping me a little bit busy is I am studying online for the assessment review board that I have to get renewed on. I'm hoping that it'll be just like the last 6 years. We don't have anybody challenging our assessments. Maybe this year will be the first time, but I'm finding it a little different to be online. I'm sort of understanding the students right now, studying from home. It's a little different trying to study online. At my age, I want to be outside, so I guess that's what the students want too. So that's my report, Your Worship.
Well, don't be skipping any classes and heading outside. Thank you very much. Councilor Rudick.
Thank you, Your Worship. April 17th, I had registered for an AUMA webinar on how to run effective electronic meetings as the chair of a couple of boards. I thought it was incumbent upon me to try to figure out this new format. Some good tips there and some of the resources that I'm very happy to see. I didn't realize that we already subscribed to the box of docs. Happy to see that we've got that support. The Alberta Urban Municipalities Association continues to have an accurate touch point for all municipalities to access all sorts of programming and supports for municipalities. And their web page, their landing page about COVID-19 has the various issues that each of you are talking about tonight. April 20th, I attended the Physician Attraction and Health Professionals Attraction and Retention Committee as a guest on the invite of Councillor Waters. I'll let her talk about that. Legislative committee meetings and council meetings, but we've also done a number of FCM rural and remote Skype meetings on April 22nd, as well as this morning, and the Economic Development Board meeting on the 22nd and the 24th, a ZAG creative COVID mitigation and business promotion and the type of conversations that each of us have talked about here tonight. Again, the whole idea of invest now and visit us later. So basically the idea of ensuring that we're providing a united front. The economist Todd Hirsch had just done a blog post recently that I thought maybe he was talking about Vegreville, but he's talking about a number of different communities. The whole idea of using this pandemic to best effect, which sounds maybe counterintuitive, and it's not that anybody's excited about the pressures that have been placed on communities, but accelerating the fourth industrial revolution and reinvigorating the importance of community, as well as stimulating creativity and innovation. And when we did our council strategic planning, we talked about intentional community creation, investing in our citizens and supporting the idea of being an inclusive and diverse community in all ways. And we've seen the strength and the challenges that we have as a community, and the way that we're going to be able to weather that storm is by being able to support the business community. Some of the statistics that Councillor Lemko referred to earlier are extremely galling in small communities where we rely on a lot of small businesses. A lot of these organizations, one of our board members on the Economic Development Board had 2 sales since the start of the COVID pressure. So if you don't have deep enough pockets, you can imagine, and in confidence, I can say that the reason that she's able to survive this challenging time is because she's been in operation for a long time. But we know the statistics of small business owners under 5 years of operation are extremely challenged. For that reason, some of the projects that we've had on the back burner for economic development in the last couple of years, we've already had some budget dollars that haven't been expended. So our proposal will be to invest that. We're going to promote the community in that sort of vein of, again, invest now, come later. And we're going to provide that whole multifaceted approach that would be residential business promotion. But at this time, it'll also be retention of the ones that we have currently. So making sure that we have a place for all of those business owners to be able to access accurate information. There are a lot of timely, up to the minute changes in terms of financial support from the federal and provincial government. And we want to ensure that businesses have the ability to be able to access the information, and that the town of Vegreville continues to be the accurate source of information, the reassuring voice of calm, reasoned information, and that we can be somebody that the business and residents of this community continue to look for support. So there is a proposal that we'll bring forward at the next legislative committee meeting, but I just wanted to reiterate, I appreciate so much the various board members' strengths that they bring to that committee to be able to, even under difficult circumstances, think about the future and even in challenging times, be able to creatively find our way through this. This morning, we did have a meeting with the Minister of Rural Economic Development, Mariam Monsef, called into the FCM Rural and Remote Forum. So we were able to talk about real-time examples of what's happening in rural communities across the country. Again, it is not lost that some members on this rural and remote call are not able to actually talk about the issues that they're facing in their communities because they can't even dial in. So they're able to call by a regular landline and or lose the call if you're up in the northern part of the country. But it was an accurate picture of what the reality is for most of us in smaller communities across this country. Minister Monsef and her parliamentary secretary, who is MP Goody Hutchings from rural Newfoundland, were extremely receptive, and we had a few different our co-chairs, Scott Pierce from rural Quebec, Tom Taggart from Colchester County, and our chair Ray Orb from Saskatchewan, talking about the various issues that we face. They did use Vegreville as a specific example. And again, I'm going to ask administrative support for being able to provide some examples. They did use the example of our council working with the local radio station to reassure citizens, to make sure that citizens of all types, including those that may not have access to social media, be comforted about what's happening in real time. So they actually used that example. So kudos to our team here for making sure that we can continue to reach out to our citizens in new ways and make sure that we're continuing to do the job of representing our citizens. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Waters, you moved up a row on my screen, so you're next.
It's like magical squares up here.
Yeah.
Thank you. So on April 20th, the Vegreville Rural Physician Health Professionals Retention Committee met via Zoom. And we were missing one key person for this committee, and that was a representative from the clinic. So as chair of the committee, I reached out to Dr. Stridham, and just to share a few things from our conversation, a few of the doctors were away on the onset of COVID-19, but he did assure me that all physicians were always in contact. And he said everything was under control. Kudos to the doctors that were here. The first 2 weeks were frustrating because there were changes daily that they had to get used to. And with the hospital, there's policies and procedures that are in place and they're being followed. Says here, we are ready, and they're ready and well informed about all the policies, and there are no active cases in our town or in our immediate surrounding area. He says people are getting to know more and more now that they can be seen as a virtual consult. And the news is spreading, and they are getting busier and busier with call-ins now for patients that need to be seen. So that stigma of stay away is lessening. So those that need attention are getting the attention they need. There is, with Alberta Health Services, 2 positions that are posted for physicians here. Right now, there are 6 full-time doctors. 1 is on maternity leave, so that makes 7 in total. But there are 2 positions available, no applicants at this time, but it is still fairly new on the website. And as any business, the clinic is having the same challenges with staffing. They have 4 full-time staff that are still employed, which is great, but their 4 part-time workers had to be let go temporarily until this is all over. So the clinic is operating fine, as well as the hospital. They're ready for if and when we have any cases. And on April 21st, the legislative meeting, the 23rd, the photo for Nova Scotia Support is very, very well attended by our council there. And the heart that was made, I believe, by Mayor McPhee and Kathy was a work of art. It was really good, really showcased what we're looking at there. Tonight's council meeting, and in between, I've been on numerous town hall, telephone meetings, and webinars, just to keep up to date on what's available and what's happening out there with this pandemic. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Brodziak.
Okay, my report will be short. I've attended, I won't repeat everything that the other councillors have said. On April 21st, I attended the Legislative Committee meeting. On the 22nd, our Economic Development meeting, and tonight's council meeting. I wanted to say with our Economic Development meeting, we did have a brainstorming session as to how can we help our business community during this COVID crisis, and it is definitely a crisis for many of our businesses. I want to thank all the residents and all the businesses who are doing their best to social isolation, and I think it is helping. This has been nothing like we've ever seen before. We don't know what the effects will be. Mental health, we just don't know how this is going to affect a lot of people, and I think our community is coming together. We have a lot of supports in place, and kudos to everyone who's giving it their best shot. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. Well, I've attended all the regular meetings that we've had on Zoom, and it's the new norm, and we're getting better at it. I can tell I feel a little more comfortable at it. I've done the talk of the town on each Monday and trying to keep our community updated with what the province is saying and how it's going to affect us, and just trying to encourage everybody to keep up the good work they've been doing, because it shows what we did 2 weeks ago is showing up today. So I have had conversations with a couple of potential investors that we've talked to over the last year and a half, and I continue to keep those conversations going, and they all seem still to be very positive about the direction, and so we're very happy with that. I've been on a couple of different town halls. I've asked some ministers some questions regarding our municipality, and And on April 23rd, the support that this council had for Nova Scotia and the residents there. I want to thank you all for showing up. That picture that we sent has been really recognized in the Maritimes, and a lot of the people I grew up with and friends and family have commented to me personally on it. So I want to thank you all for helping me out, and it just goes to show what type of community we really are. We can show our support at any time for anybody that needs it. So that's my report, and I would now like to take a motion to go. Oh, Councilor Rudick.
Sorry, I thought I'd written everything down, but I did want to just mention that Senator Grant Mitchell, who was a key advocate for us when we were doing our the closure of the immigration center and trying to advocate with the federal government, and had seen us and heard phone calls and letters, is resigning from his post. And I don't know if it's standard for us to say thank you for his work, specifically for the town of Vegreville. But just in this format, at least I wanted to acknowledge his advocacy for the town of Vegreville and wish him well. He's had a long career in a variety of different formats, and the last one as a senator has been very beneficial, at least for us to have a reasoned voice in Ottawa when we were trying to advocate for the CPC staying open here.
Well, he has been a very good Albertan to begin with, and he's been involved in this province for a long time. Again, in this format by itself, we can all say thank you very much for his commitment to this province. So. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to take a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Lemko. Thank you. So we'll be checking out here with